What is going on? Thanks for joining me today. My name is Eric Turner. I am the director at Xavier Lacrosse Academy here at St. FX High School. Today I'm going to be taking you through a quick overview of our program, hopefully answering any questions you may have about it as we look towards our next academy term starting in the upcoming fall. So just some quick introductions about our coaching staff. My name is, again, Eric Turner. I am the director of the academy. I currently play professionally in the National Lacrosse League, and I spent 4 years at Cornell University playing NCAA Division I lacrosse. I'm lucky to work alongside John Lintz, also a current professional player in the National Lacrosse League, and currently coaches our minors junior A team here in the city. We're really fortunate to have John. He's had success across all levels of lacrosse. And he's just such a valuable member of our team. It's pretty rare that you get two active pro players coaching in a program. So I feel very fortunate that I get to work alongside him. We share a lot of similar views in terms of player development, and we value instructing the game in a very similar way. So I feel really good about our coaching team on the floor. Finally, we're really lucky to have Carissa Anderson. She's our FX strength and conditioning coach. At our school, we're really fortunate that we have a pretty top-of-the-line weight room directly within the school that we utilize as part of our program to help with our student athletes' athletic development. And Carissa has been a key component of helping our players grow in that area. Our program really leans on three key values that kind of dictate everything that we do. And the first one is support for our student athletes. I think the benefit and one of the main benefits of being involved in a program like ours, especially if you're coming into a new high school experience, which can be a bit intimidating, is we provide an atmosphere and an environment where you feel connected to a social group right away that you share similar interests with. And our program has always been very, very good at providing a really inclusive and supportive environment for everyone who joins our program. That's always been something that's really stood out to me. And it really just speaks to the character of people that our program attracts. And I feel really good about the fact that we can provide a really, really good player experience on top of everything that we do in terms of skill development and other things like that. The second component is obviously the academic piece. A lot of our student athletes are pursuing collegiate lacrosse as part of their goals. So obviously this is a really integral component to them being able to have those opportunities, and we provide them as many supports as we can. But in a more general sense, for the student athletes that maybe don't have collegiate lacrosse on their radar, they just want to have a cool experience as a member of our lacrosse academy and are going to move on to other things post high school. We want to make sure that they're set up for those goals as well, whatever their post-secondary goals are. So this academic piece is a huge part of it, and we have an awesome school team that supports our student athletes in their academic pursuits. The final component, obviously, is the athletic side. We obviously, as a lacrosse program, are really focused on the athletic component of what we do. But beyond that, John and I are both multi-sport guys. We played multiple sports growing up, and we want to create an environment where our players have the opportunity to explore extracurricular school sports if that's something they're interested in. And we both believe that that's really critical to their development, both as a lacrosse player and just as an overall athlete. So that's a huge part of our program as well. In terms of the actual lacrosse instructional component of our program, we basically break it down into two subsections throughout our semester. So the first half of the academy is dedicated towards field lacrosse, and this is done for a couple intentional reasons. Number one, the weather allows us to be outside, but more so it's about the timeline of recruiting. So for most collegiate programs, their most active time for recruiting is in the fall because they're out of season and the coaches are available to attend events. So we have a lot of our players attending recruiting showcases and going down to the States to play in tournaments and things like that during the fall. So we want to align our program and our instruction with the field lacrosse component. I think one of the advantages that our program has is we actually have staff members who are pretty well-versed in the field game. Obviously, with my Division I experience and my experience in the field game, I'm able to bring that instructional component to the program. And I think in Alberta, that's a little bit of a gap that I'm pretty excited that I'm able to fill, because there's more and more of these collegiate opportunities opening up, and we're seeing more and more Alberta and Edmonton-based players finding those opportunities. So preparing them properly to go down and compete for starting positions right from their freshman year is something that I'm pretty motivated to do. And I think in our program, we're doing a really good job of that. The second component is the box lacrosse piece. So once the weather forces us to be indoors, we shift inside. And again, the timing works out really well, because usually by that point, a lot of the recruiting events are starting to taper off a bit, and players are starting to shift their focus in preparing for evaluations or tryouts in the spring. So we're able to get indoors and provide another really high level of instruction on the indoor side in the box lacrosse game to prep players for those evaluations and those tryouts. The primary goal of our program is skill development, and everything we do kind of goes back to that. Because we're not actively competing in a league or preparing for tournaments or things like that, our focus is really on creating a map of how we can develop all our individual players and grow their strengths as players, to make sure that they're able to compete at the highest level that they can. And a lot of that comes from conversations about their goals, recognition of where their skill set lies, and kind of the pathway that we think we can assign to them to make sure that they're developing. And I think that's where John and I's experience as coaches really comes through. And I think we've been doing an outstanding job of helping players develop skills to be successful when it's time for them to compete. We have players that are represented across every level. Obviously, as a high school lacrosse academy, we draw more of a high level player more regularly. But we have some members of our academy over the last couple of years who just enjoy playing the game and are out there. And again, I think going back to what I said about support in our program, all our players do such a good job of supporting each other, no matter what their level or what their goals within the game are, and creating a really cool development environment where everybody can still feel challenged, but also supported at the same time. Looking at a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of the elements of our program, the on-field and on-floor instruction is obviously a critical piece of what we do. The student athletes in our program get 3 on-field or on-floor sessions per week. They happen on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And we schedule them out intentionally within those 3 days to include different components to help their development. So we have an individual skills day, which is more targeted at high rep work for individual players across those individual skills, just to make sure that they're getting really targeted work to help expand their game. The second day of the week, we typically go to more team concepts. So we'll work on small-sided games, 2-on-2s, learning how to transition the ball, learning about team defensive concepts across the whole spectrum of more team integration. So they gain a little bit more game IQ and understanding. And then finally, at the end of the week, we just strap the pads on and play. We have a game day every week, which the kids really look forward to. And it just allows us to use the things that we've learned throughout the week and apply them in a gameplay setting and compete. And that's a lot of fun for the kids. The second component is the athletic development side. This goes back to Carissa's involvement. Again, we're really fortunate at our school to have outstanding facilities, including the weight room, where we can help players kind of get a handle on starting to think about those strength, conditioning, speed, and agility elements of what it means to be an athlete. And again, we're really lucky that we have Carissa to kind of lead the charge on that. Physical education, this piece and combination with the sports performance piece kind of make up the core of where credits come from in our program. So the physical education piece, similar to what you'd get in a normal high school experience, there's a multi-sport approach. The kids go through a variety of different units led by John, covering the phys ed curriculum, and they're assigned 5 credits for going through that. And again, being from a multi-sport approach, this component to me is really important, and it's a lot of fun when we get in there and we get to compete in the different sports. The final piece is sports performance. So these are modules that cover a lot of the mental aspects of sport and performance. So we talk about nutrition, sports psychology, things like that. They're short modules. There's 5 per year that are each worth a credit. And as they progress from grades 10, 11, 12, the modules progress as well. So they're able to get 5 credits per year just through the sports performance component. And I think it's a really, really nice way for them to get credits for learning about how to be a better performing athlete. Taking a look at our weekly schedule just a little bit closer. So our program operates in the afternoons, Monday through Friday. And just depending on the specific day will dictate like what our activity is, but it takes up 2 blocks. So from Monday to Thursday, those blocks run from 11:53 to 2:48. On Fridays, on our timetable, it's a little bit of a shorter day. So we go from 10:17 to 12:14. So again, within that, those are 2 blocks that are covered, and we go through the whole afternoon. So looking at the actual schedule for the week, this is what we've operated off for the last couple of years. On Monday, we're on the field or on the floor doing lacrosse. Again, typically an individual skills day where we're high rep shooting, dodging, defending, for our goalies, getting a lot of looks at the ball, just very individual focused. And this is where we take the time with individual players to make sure that they're getting that kind of individual attention that we want to give them to help them develop. Tuesday is a split between phys ed and fitness. So for one block, they're in phys ed. In the second block, they're in fitness, or vice versa. It just kind of depends on the schedule. But again, this is like going back to that athletic development approach and making sure that our kids are getting a multi-sport kind of component, as well as helping to expand their strength, conditioning, speed, agility, all those things that are so critical to their performance. On Wednesday, we're back on the floor or on the field for some more lacrosse. Again, this is that team concept day where we'll do 2-on-2s. We'll work on team defense. We'll work on transition, man up, man down, just covering the whole scope of different situations that they'll run into in an actual game. Thursday's game day. So it's pretty straightforward. We split the groups into different teams and we'll play. And sometimes we vary like what gameplay looks like, just to throw some different challenges at them. But really kids know on Thursdays that they're just going to compete and we have a lot of fun making that an exciting day of the week to kind of end off our lacrosse component for the week each time. And then Friday, again, we're back to doing a split between phys ed and sports performance. So phys ed block, similar to a Tuesday, they'll be going through whatever the unit is with John. And then the second component is being in the lab, working on their sports performance modules with the support from us to just kind of help them work through some of those assignments. I think a large degree of why our program is able to be as successful as it has been is we're so privileged and fortunate to have absolutely awesome facilities at our school. I think the thing that always impressed me when I was going through my lacrosse process through high school and when I got to go to some of these US-based events and see some of these US high schools and the facilities that they had, I was always kind of blown away. And FX to me is probably the closest thing that I've seen to matching up with that. We have a football field adjacent to our school. We have a turf field that we utilize for field lacrosse, which you'll see in the top left corner of this little grid. We have a really, really nice weight room that Carissa has done a great job outfitting appropriately to make it like a team space that we can use to train. We have the gym within our school, which is obviously super nice, but then we have the addition of the sports center, which is 3 different full-size basketball courts that we have access to. And then obviously when we go to box, having a really short travel over to the West Side Soccer Center and pretty much having exclusive usage over that based on the time frame that we go is pretty amazing. So we're really lucky that we have all these spaces and it really enables us as coaches and for our student athletes to have a great experience with all the different components of our program. As I said before, due to the nature and kind of the history of our program, we tend to attract a lot of student athletes that have college lacrosse kind of on their radars as a goal. So I feel really fortunate that I went through the experience of playing at the Division I level and kind of got to go through this process. and that now that I'm in a position to kind of help aid and assist families in going through the process as well. I know for my parents and myself, it was a little bit overwhelming and intimidating with not really having a ton of knowledge, but I was really lucky that I had this program and I had a ton of good mentors and coaches that kind of helped me work through it. So this is a huge component of what we do for student athletes that identify that college lacrosse is a goal of theirs. And really what it starts with for us is helping them to identify schools that would be a good fit. And I think this can be some of the hardest part of the process is trying to figure out where you're going to be. But both John and I have been involved with helping kids through and families through this process for long enough now that we're pretty well versed in identifying and helping to identify where kids might have the best experience. And obviously that all comes down to the family and the kid, but we're pretty good at helping out with that process. The mentorship component, I think really the major pieces from us are just learning how to communicate with coaches, all the kind of like small detail elements of going through the process we've been engaged in, and we can really help kind of provide that support. Again, it's an intimidating process, and you want to make sure that you have good people around you to kind of help navigate it. So John and I are more than willing to help do that for anybody who's going down that route. And then finally, the academic support, just making sure that players and our student athletes are in position to have the academic supports they need to identify kind of the pathway that they're entering into, to make sure that their courses are covered, and they have all the things that they would need to make their admission to a university or college very straightforward. This number keeps growing, and I feel pretty fortunate to be a part of this, and to see a lot of the kids that have gone through our academy move on to this level. But at this stage, we've put over 40 kids into collegiate lacrosse, and maybe even more so, or more importantly, we've helped families secure money towards those educations. So it's a twofold thing. We want to make sure that people are getting the opportunity to play, but also giving them a little bit of financial support, whether that's through scholarship or through financial aid, is a huge part of making sure that people have that opportunity. So I think our program does a really good job of preparing student athletes to play at that level. And we also make sure that people are in a position that when coaches are coming to recruit them, they have the tools and the skill set and the character where programs want to offer them money to be a part of their program. This graphic just kind of shows a breakdown of where some of our student athletes have ended up in the collegiate lacrosse realm. So we're represented across all three NCAA divisions, 1, 2, and 3. We have some CUFLA representation. We have some MCLA representation. Again, to us as coaches, it's not really that important about where people land. It's about finding them a great fit. And we've had student athletes have great experiences across the whole spectrum of college lacrosse. And to me, it's really neat to see our program so well represented throughout collegiate lacrosse. Taking a look at some of our players' perspective on our program, obviously I'm pretty biased as being the academy director, but I think what's really important is seeing the experience from our players' viewpoint, what they experience being a part of our program, how they feel about it. So we have two representatives here. Hudson Shivers just graduated last year. He's in his freshman year at Newberry College right now, and he was a part of our program for 3 years. And obviously the coaching side that he touches on is important, and I'm very happy that he feels that way about the skill development side that we provided. But the more important piece to me for what he's talking about is how he felt like he was connected, building some meaningful relationships. It felt like family-esque to him. again, for me, support is such an important component of what we do. Those things really stand out. Kaylee is a current member of our academy. She will graduate in 2023. She's an outstanding player and a really good representative of our program. In her perspective here, the thing that really stood out to me is, as she touched on, like coming to a new high school can be rather intimidating, especially when you know you're going to kind of be surrounded by a bunch of lacrosse boys. And immediately she kind of felt that she was part of it, and there was acceptance and support for her, and obviously building her lacrosse skills as well. So again, for me, the support component, the fact that they feel like they're part of something and they have a support network with their peers as well as us is the most critical component. And obviously we're going to deliver a good on-floor product, but providing them that actual great high school experience, to me, is the most valuable thing that we can do. And again, we're working to try to connect our student athletes with members of their lacrosse community. So this is a graphic showing some of the clubs that are currently represented within our program. As you can see, it kind of spans across the entire city. We got West Edmonton, North Edmonton, Beaumont, Spruce Grove, South Edmonton, and hoping to have more representation in this upcoming fall. But to me, this part is really cool, just to see players from different clubs, different areas of the city come together to share within one program. And I think there's huge benefits from the social aspect, from the development aspect, and especially as these kids work into the age group where they start to get into junior lacrosse, where they're going outside of their clubs. It's really cool to see them be able to meet and compete alongside people from all over the city who might end up being their teammates or they'll play against, and then at the end of the game they can go and share like a little post game hug or whatever because they're friends through our program. So in terms of our academy pricing, we're a one-semester academy. So we run from August to January, which is the extent of the first semester in our timetable, which we do for a couple of reasons. Number one, it allows us to keep fees very, very reasonable and keep costs down for families. And that commitment is pretty fair, I think. And then the second piece is kind of two-pronged. When we get to the spring, so once we get into the second semester, a lot of the students are moving into their actual seasons. So we don't want to overload them with too many floor times when they're competing in the evenings with their club team and they're into season. Again, as a skill development program, our focus is preparing players to be able to play. So once they start to play, it's really rewarding as a coach to see them apply the skills that we've built through the off season with our program. The second piece of running in the first semester is it offers our students more flexibility in terms of their academics. So because we run in the afternoons, it can be somewhat limiting through the first semester in terms of what classes student athletes can enroll in. So giving them that second semester to have a more open schedule allows them to kind of explore those academic interests a little bit more and just make sure that that's covered as well. So that's kind of the reasoning for the one semester approach. But in terms of the actual fees, the academy fee is $1,500, and that's all towards things that directly apply to the program. So that's coaching, that's our fitness instructor, that's our transportation to the venues, that's the venue cost of renting out the Westside Soccer Center and any kind of like field trip kind of stuff we do through phys ed, and the jerseys and equipment that we use. So jerseys are all included in that. Things like the balls, the nets, things like that are included in that fee. And then the second component of fees, this is an optional fee that we include each year. It's ballparked here at around $200. In the last 2 years, it's been significantly less than that, but that's our apparel fees. And we do this separate from academy fees because we want to offer people flexibility in terms of what they want to order, if they want to order, and separating it allows us to do that. It also allows us to keep fees low, right? So if you're not adding in the apparel, you're just looking at a flat rate every year. But if you do add in the apparel, this year, our apparel costs were only $90, which included a hoodie, sweats, and a shirt. We put it on a rotation, so there's no overlap. So year to year, there will always be new items offered. So if kids want to get more gear to represent, that's awesome. But again, we keep it separate from the academy fees because we want to keep it flexible and give families the option whether they want to invest more or not. Finally, I just want to say, again, a huge thank you for taking the time to go through this with me. Hopefully I answered a lot of questions that you may have about our program, but if there are any additional questions or comments that you have, please feel free to ask. My cell phone is listed here under director phone, and that's my school email. Please reach out at any time. I'm more than happy to discuss our program more in depth and answer any questions that you may come up. And I'm really looking forward to seeing our program grow. And again, to me, the most important thing is we're providing a full look at our information about our program so that we can provide families with a clear perspective on whether it would be a good fit for them or not. Obviously, we want student athletes in our program, but we also want to ensure that it's the right fit for them. So providing that full look into our program and what we provide is really critical to that. So if there's anything I can do to help clear that for you, just please let me know. So thank you so much for your time. I hope to talk to you soon, and maybe we'll see you on the field.